the disintegration of the African-American family. Right now, about 73% of all black babies are born out of wedlock. That drives poverty. And the lack of involved fathers leads to young boys growing up resentful and unsupervised.
Tough talk from a tough man. Public reaction to O'Reilly's comments was immediate, it was passionate, and it was angry. Earlier, I sat down with Bill to talk about race and the firestorm that he started. You had quite a week this week. A lot of reaction to your talking points as it relates to the George Zimmerman case and racism in America. Were you surprised by the reaction?
No. I mean, whenever you shake up the establishment, and we're going after the civil rights establishment, the grievance industry, you know you're going to get pushback. They're going to attack you personally. And there's a lot to this story. But there are two separate stories. There's the Zimmerman story, all right, and then there's the failure to deal with the persistent problems in the African-American inner cities.
And you talk about this civil rights industry. Why do you think they haven't gotten involved? Why do you think that you, Bill O'Reilly, have to bring up these issues that really is beginning a dialogue in this country that people haven't talked about in a long time?
Because it's bad for business. I mean, if you put the onus on personal responsibility rather than biased and prejudiced that allegedly white people have for blacks, then your whole power structure dissolves. So they're not going to do that, and that's where we are. But I want to make this linkage so everybody understands. We had a juror come out that said she believes that Zimmerman is guilty of murder, but there wasn't enough proof to convict him. That was the sixth juror, the Hispanic woman. And you know, I think people should step back on this case and say, look, the law says X, and that's why Zimmerman was acquitted. All right? But Zimmerman may be culpable here. I mean, we have too many people saying this one did this and this one did that.
Look, Bill,
that's not what it's about.
Under the laws of Florida, there was no culpability based on the proof presented to this jury. But that's not the issue that you're taking the heat for.
No, but here's the main point, that Trayvon Martin would not have been killed, would not have lost his life if he hadn't looked a certain way.
Wasn't it more that this is a closed community, Zimmerman is this community watch, and this guy was unfamiliar and acting a little weird.
And he looked a certain way. So it wasn't that he was black. If he had been a well-dressed black man, all right, in a suit and tie like I have, I don't think there would have been a problem.
Right.
But he looked a certain way. So people are afraid of that look. The fear element that Trayvon Martin, all right, had following him around is real. It's real that white people, Hispanic people, Asian people, they fear a certain look. Why do they fear that look? Because of the tremendous amount of crime associated with the look.
But it's not just the crime associated with the look. It is the facts. It is the statistics. It is the truth.
That's right.
All right? And we both agree with that. But when you talk about how you resolve this, and then you have people come back and they say, you know what? It's not a choice that our African-American families have that they've fallen apart. Elvira King, niece to Martin Luther King. I mean, how do you respond to that?
That's absurd.
It is absurd.
Right. I mean,
if you decide to get pregnant.
50 years ago, the black out-of-wedlock birth rate was 25%, and now it's approaching 75%. So what was the difference then back in the 60s when African Americans had it worse, far worse than they have it now? All right? So that just doesn't add up. It's a personal decision to have a baby out of wedlock. And they're making it, they, being the African-American women, are making it at an astronomical rate. So what is driving that?
What do you think is driving it?
I think it's the breakdown of the family and no guidance and no structure and no limits and just do what you want.
Do you think that the welfare system is part of the reason because of the dependency?
It might be that, but that's not the primary driver.
But if I'm pregnant and I know that I'm going to have a baby and everybody else is going to take care of this baby.
You want to live in the inner city tenement your whole life? Yeah, you'll be able to survive, but is that prosperous? Is that the life you want?
Well, but
that's the life you're going to get?
But you know what's interesting is that without a father, Whether you're black or white, the rates of suicide, depression, being addicted to drugs is so much higher. But if the rate of these teen pregnancies is higher in the African-American community, then the kids are clearly suffering. All right, last question. Do you have any hope for the future of young African-Americans in this country?
The only way this problem gets solved is if a leader like Martin Luther King emerges, because there isn't any leadership now in the civil rights industry, and there's no leadership in Washington. So the African-American community is pretty much on its own.
If you were president, you talk about Washington, what would you do? What would Bill
I would absolutely make the inner city crime a top priority, and I would move in real strong on it and stop it, because you can.
You can.
And then I would do a tremendous campaign to urge black American women not to become pregnant out of wedlock. It would be a tremendous campaign, and I know there would be black entertainers who would cooperate in that. But you got to make it a priority, and right now they're ignoring it totally.
Yeah, amazing. All right, Bill, thanks for being on the show.
Always a pleasure, Judge.
Thank you. Coming up, what